The church I grew up in, we had an enormous youth group. And so when we went on mission trips, we went on mission trips. We would load up 20 to 30 vehicles, and we would head down to Mexico. There were typically between 100 and 150 of us students, along with the parents and grandparents that came along to help facilitate the trip. Those were amazing times, amazing experiences of getting to share God's love with people that we viewed as honestly less fortunate than us. The funny thing is that God always showed up in ways that we could not have expected. Sometimes it was a family showing us love that blew us blew our minds, because we couldn't have expected that they would have so much to give to us. One of the most interesting, and perhaps it shouldn't have been surprising to me, things that I learned on those trips was just how important that the parents and the grandparent-aged people were to the trip. Not just in the skills and gifts that they brought along, but in the relationships that they formed with us. In the relationships that became conduits of God's love and mercy and grace towards us. Perhaps it shouldn't surprise me. The scripture speaks about the importance of the generations, one to another. Psalm 145, 4 through 6 says, "One generation shall commend your works to another, and shall declare your mighty acts. On the glorious splendor of your majesty and on your wondrous works I will meditate. They shall speak of the might of your awesome deeds, and I will declare your greatness." Paul, when speaking to Timothy, says to him in 2 Timothy 1:5, "I have been reminded of your sincere faith, which first lived in your grandmother Lois and in your mother Eunice." And so from the Old Testament to the New, we have this understanding that the generations are meant to commend the faith one to another. Fuller Youth Institute recently did a study and put out materials called Sticky Faith. And in those materials, they came to the conclusion that for somebody who was young, a teenager, to have a lasting, sticky faith, they needed at least 5 people, 5 adults to feed into them. Now, this doesn't mean that they would be people who would drop spiritual bombs and walk away, but these are people that would continuously and consistently walk with the teenager. And not just walk with the teenager and share their own thoughts and their own feelings, but that would walk with the teenager and share the goodness of God, the works of God. Sometimes figuring out or finding ways to relate to connect with people from different generations can be difficult. I absolutely understand that. We are really, really different, especially at this point in our culture. There is a huge difference between the oldest and the youngest. But the faith that grew inside our oldest generation has to be passed down to our youngest. And so here's what I would encourage you to do, is to find ways and places to invest in our kids, in our students, in their lives, sharing with them the goodness of God. Now, one of the cool things is that we have an opportunity, a perfect opportunity, to be able to do just that, to find a place, to work with the different generations in service to God, and to build relationships through that work on our upcoming mission trip to Moreau Children's Home. Not only will we get to go and to provide things for the children's home and to provide love and care and support and energy towards the children who are there, but we'll have the opportunity to connect with one another, That in those connections, in those relationships that are ongoing and lasting, that we would be able to share the goodness of God, the mighty works of God, one generation to another. Come, be part of this so that we can fulfill the biblical call to pass our faith down to the next generation. Think about it, pray about it, consider it. I hope to see you there. Blessings.